Let's get one thing clear out of the way really first. Every time I set up for a review, I have to make sure everything behind me looks good. So, like making the bed, obviously, making sure everything's out of the way so you don't see it in frame. And my bed frame always falls off when I'm sleeping, so I have to fix it. So, in doing so, it ruined one of the posters that I had back there that's supposed to be on that side. It fell off and it's broken. I need to get a new one. On top of that, this whole setup right here where the camera's supposed to be has just been moved around a bunch, and things were falling all over the place back here with all the posters that I have to rearrange everything back there. And not to mention, I'm wearing a hat because I don't like the way my hair looks today. I really don't. So doing all of this, I'm setting this all up for you to show you that I cared more about setting this shit up than Sony did about any of these movies they've made recently. Kraven the Hunter was directed by J.C. Chandler and is, as of right now, the final Sonyverse movie with these anti-heroes that they've been pumping out since Venom. Now, I say that is, kind of like air quotes almost, because we'll get more into that, but first we have to talk about this movie. Aaron Taylor Johnson plays Kraven, a young boy who has disdain for his hunting drug lord father, I guess he is. Anyways, he has a bad relationship with him, and he goes out of his way to kill all the bad people in the world, and in doing so, the bad people capture his brother, and now he must save him and fight off a rhino and, save the day, I guess. Let's get one thing clear really quick. I don't like coming on here and talking about how shitty these Sonyverse movies are. In fact, I almost get enjoyment out of some of these really bad ones. I mean, I really thought that Madam Web was the worst movie of the year. And looking back at the list of movies that I had seen and the list of movies that had come out, it's up there for sure. But, man, I had way better time watching Madam Web than I did watching Kraven. Let's get the positives out the way first, because there's far less positives than there are the negatives in this movie. Aaron Taylor Johnson is actually pretty decent as Kraven, at least aesthetically he is. Like, I like the look of him. It's a shame that, not too long ago we've had a technically better depiction of him with Spider-Man 2 with the video game, but I didn't hate this portrayal of him. Like, at least like the look of him and like how they were attempting to go about it towards the beginning was actually pretty okay. Up until towards the end of the movie, obviously, is when I started hating everything. And you can't get an actor in here like Russell Crowe who doesn't put on a bad performance, usually. I thought that he was fine in it. His stupid accent that they put on, like everybody does, where he's like, "My son, we are hunters." And it's like, he's trying to be Palpatine, but Russian? Again, the two performances from those guys is serviceable at best. Like, it's fine. I don't hate it. It could have been better. That's about it where I lie with the positives, honestly. Sony is proving once again to be one of the laziest movie production companies I've seen in my lifetime. I don't really understand how you can make so many of these movies and have them be this terrible. The story is slow and plotting and so boring. You would think that the action would kind of help the story a little bit, but it really doesn't. And honestly, the story is really not that hard to do, to be fair. You can get a revenge story out of this with Kraven the Hunter. That doesn't seem like that's a difficult thing to do. But the way they presented it, it just wasn't executed well. I thought the first few minutes of the movie were kind of okay, and we were building up to something. You see Kraven as an adult, and you realize that at the beginning of the movie, he's just going after bad guys and killing them when he's escaping from one of the prisons that he's in. But then after that, you jump into a lengthy flashback about his past life when he was a teenager and how he gets his awesome powers. And from there, it's just slow and methodical and meandering. And I'm just kind of like, can we get back to like the killing and like the, action stuff? Because there's a lot of like character study stuff here that we're doing here, and I'm not invested in it. Because quite frankly, the dialogue is horrible. The exposition dumps in this are laughably bad. The ADR, by God, if that could be a staple for the last few movies that they have done, that's what it's going to be, is Sony can't get ADR right. And it's a basic thing you do when filmmaking. And even when it does show the action in it, there's CGI that is horrible to look at. It doesn't look good whatsoever. And mixed in with that, it's like some of the fights are kind of okay. Like, you want the fights, as I said before in other reviews, that I wanted the fights to at least be enjoyable. And while there are parts of fights that are kind of enjoyable, like a bear trap snapping on someone's face and some guy going and being split in half by a tree stump in the forest, but you see all of that in the trailer. Really, the only new footage you're going to get as far as fighting goes is the fight that Aaron Taylor Johnson has with the Rhino and the other villain that's in this movie. And the other one is so short, but it all just looks bad. Like, it was rated R, and I really had this hope of like, wow, they're going to go pretty gory with this, it seems like, because when you get a Red Band trailer of a guy's face being mauled by this bear trap, that's a tease to the audience to be like, hey, this is as far as we're going to go, and we could go even a little bit further, but this is what we're willing to show you. That's what the trailer's supposed to be for. It teases us as to what to expect in the movie. When you tease that a guy's face is going to be caught in a bear trap, making out with it, basically, I would expect some cooler stuff to happen other than just that. But no, it's lackluster. It's painfully awful to watch at points. CGI, as I stated before, just really, really, really terrible. I just don't get it. I don't understand where these movies, like, how do they go wrong? Like, again, the ADR is so horrible because it seems like they changed their minds about the movie halfway through releasing it and was like, oh shit, we got to change everything. When it's just like, if you write a decent script and just go with it, you can make a fine movie. And not to mention, like, I'm going to compare this to Madam Web, because as much as I think Madam Web is so much more fun to watch than Kraven, because I find Kraven to be extremely boring, even though I find them both similar caliber of filmmaking, at least, you know, Madam Web had, like, actual color grading for it. Kraven has, like, such a slosh, like, gray feel to everything when you look at the frame, and it's just like, how is it that we're getting to the nitty-gritty stuff that we have to complain about for this movie now? Now we're complaining about how, like, the color is in each frame. Not just the acting, not just the dialogue, not just the CGI, not just, like, how batshit crazy some of the stuff is in each scene. We're getting down to, like, how your film looks just based on the color. We're in bad territory, folks. This film is laughably bad. Laughably bad in the sense of, like, I can't believe they made it. Not laughably bad in the sense that I'm watching this movie and laughing at everything. You could laugh at everything. But I felt more pain than laughter, honestly. It's such a shame when watching these movies just to show how bad they could take these villains who are relatively iconic, especially in the sense of Venom and Kraven the Hunter, and just show how, like, they could just not give a shit about these movies. I'm going to kind of touch a little bit on the Sony sort of reports that came out in regards to them, you know, halting on this whole universe and, you know, working more towards Spider-Man 4 right now. And it's a little bit misleading for what people are saying out there. Because here's the thing. The reason Sony is pausing on this is because Spider-Man 4 is in production. And they're just retaining the rights. Is what all of this was for, is just to retain the rights to these Spider-Man properties. There was no intention of them saying that we're just going to never make these movies again, because they will. In the next few years, they're going to get the idea of like, whoa, shit, we got the reminder email about us, you know, our copyright's coming up soon. Better churn out some more Spider-Man movies, at least people related to Spider-Man. And that's the only reason these movies get made. They're made to hold on to the rights. It's much like Fantastic Four. It's much like all of these other movies in past years where they're just making these movies just to hold on to them. They don't care about these projects. They never did. It's just, we want to hold on to them because if one day we wanted to, we could make so much money off of this stuff. And it's a shame because they make money off of this. They make so much money off of Spider-Man. They'll never sell it because it makes too much. MCU's doing its own thing with Spider-Man right now, and it's leasing the character basically to them. You have the Spider-Man games, which people love, all the merchandise and stuff like that that goes along with it. And somehow these other Spider-Verse and, you know, other movies that are not as good as the better ones are still making them money. So in the end, they're just going to hold on to this character. No one's ever going to be able to buy him because it's one of the more profitable characters of all time. And what's even more baffling is that reports were coming out too that they could have just used Spider-Man. There was nothing in there about them being like, well, you can't use Spider-Man because he's in the MCU. There was never none of that. You understand right now that DC has now gone into a complete overhaul change, in its company with James Gunn running it. And not only was Ben Affleck still a part of it with Robert Pattinson in it, they're going to have another guy come in and play Batman with the James Gunn sort of stuff happening. So they're going to have another Batman in between, and Matt Reeves' stuff is just Matt Reeves' Batman pushed to the side. And like, this is his own little universe. This is where we're putting him. And then our Batman that's connected to the larger story that we're going to be telling is going to be right here. They couldn't do that with Spider-Man. You don't think we would have all been happy in debating between Tom Holland and, I don't know, Andrew Garfield coming back, which seems far-fetched now, at least at this point, or some other fucking guy that they could have, you know, some little scrawny white boy that they could have played Spider-Man for? Is it that hard to find a guy to play Spider-Man? I'm so fed up with it. I'm so fed up with all of these fucking corporate execs going out there and saying we just need to make a Kraven movie because we need to hold on to the Kraven rights. That's all what this is for. There is no passion in these projects. There's nothing with these projects that makes Sony go, wow, we feel really creatively satisfied. Us fans are not satisfied with your product. We're not. As far as the films go, if they're not the animated ones, you ain't doing a good job. Get some fucking people in there to fucking make some decisions. Some good decisions. Get this back on track. We had good stuff before. What is stopping you from doing that again? Kraven the Hunter is one of the worst movies of the year, and honestly, it's so fucking baffling that, you know, Sony could go 3 for 3 this year. You start the year off with Madam Web, halfway through the year, you get Venom, and now you got Kraven as to bookend the end of the year. So let's all just look forward to better movies going forward, because clearly Sony just didn't give a shit. And now we have this holy trinity, holy quadrilogy, holy infinity stones of Morbius and Venom and Madam Web and now Kraven added to the arsenal. It is just that terrible around here, and I feel pain, and I'm kind of numb to it at this point. I'm going to give Kraven the Hunter 1 star. It's that bad, folks. Don't go and watch it. Honestly, at this point, the way to hurt Sony and make them really reconsider the products that they put out there as far as creatively with Spider-Man characters is hit them where their, you know, money is. Don't go out and support the movies. Don't go out and buy the merch. Don't go out and watch these things. They're not going to make good stuff if you go and just support the shit that they produce. Now, granted, they're not going to make as much money as some of the other good ones would. I mean, hell, they re-released the Spider-Mans earlier in the year, and those made way more money, I'm sure, than these movies did, because why would anyone watch the shitty movies? Now, granted, I'm going to go watch Madam Web again because I just want to laugh. But in all seriousness, these movies aren't being made because, and for me to rewatch them because they're so artsy and they're so connective with the audience like an MCU would be, or like the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, you know, or some of the Tom Holland movies, or even aspects of the Garfield movies have some stuff you can attach yourself to. These ones don't. They're just corporate schlock, and they're just fucking terrible, and I don't want to see anymore. I don't. If they're going to be this boring, I don't want to see it. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this was more entertaining than that shit pile of a movie. Anyways, guys, leave a comment down below. Tell me all your thoughts and how the good name of Spider-Man has been ruined at this point by Sony. You could also find all the socials down there on Twitter, Letterboxd, and TikTok, where we're talking about films on all of them. I just placed a quick little review of Y2K on there. And, man, I think Sony's movies could have been saved if Fred Durst was in them a little bit more. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep those cinemas alive, probably by not watching Kraven, watching something else. And I will talk to you all next time.